My name is Arthur, and I'm 62 years old. For 40 of those years, I was a ghost in my own home. I was a provider, a protector, a name on a bank account, but I was not a father. Not in the way that truly matters. I worked on average 60 hours a week, sometimes more. I built a successful company from the ground up. I gave my family everything I thought they could ever want. A beautiful house in a safe neighborhood, expensive vacations, the best schools money could buy. I gave them everything except for the one thing my son Leo actually needed. I didn't give him my time, and because of that, I lost him. Not to tragedy, not to some dramatic falling out, but to something far quieter and in some ways more painful. I lost him to my own absence. And I'm here today to tell you my story, not for sympathy, but as a warning. A plea, really. Don't do what I did. Don't make the trade I made, because the price is far too high, and you only realize it when it's too late to pay it back. It didn't happen all at once. It was a slow erosion, a gradual drifting apart that was almost imperceptible day by day. It began with a belief that I think many fathers of my generation shared, that my primary duty was to provide. I grew up with very little. My own father worked 2 jobs, and his hands were calloused and his face was perpetually tired. Love in my childhood home wasn't spoken, it was demonstrated through sacrifice. It was the roof over our heads, the food on the table. So when Leo was born, I was determined to give him more. I equated love with financial security. The more I worked, the more I was proving my love. That was the logic. A flawed, devastatingly simple logic that would come to define the next 3 decades of my life. In the early years, when Leo was small, it seemed manageable. I would miss bath time, but I'd be there to kiss him goodnight. I'd work on weekends, but I'd promise to take him to the park next weekend. The phrase "next time" became a constant refrain in our house. Daddy can't make it to the school play, but he'll be at the next one. We'll have to skip our fishing trip this year, but we'll go next year for sure. I was constantly deferring fatherhood, putting it on a payment plan, convinced I could make up for the missed moments with a bigger, better moment later on. I was accumulating a debt of presents that I never believed would be called in. I remember one specific afternoon. Leo must have been about 7. He had built this incredible, sprawling city out of Legos that took up the entire living room floor. He was so proud of it. He had spent days on it. He came into my home office, his eyes shining, and he tugged on my sleeve. "Dad, you have to come see it. It's the biggest city ever." I was on a conference call, a critical deal in the making. I put my hand over the receiver and whispered, "In a minute, buddy. Just give me a few minutes." Those few minutes turned into an hour. When I finally emerged from my office, the Lego city was gone. My wife had made him clean it up to get ready for dinner. I never saw it. I remember the look on his face at the dinner table that night. It wasn't anger. It was a quiet, resigned disappointment. It was the first time I saw the light in his eyes dim just a little when he looked at me. And the most tragic part, I told myself it was a necessary sacrifice. I told myself that the deal I was closing would pay for those very Legos and for the house they were in. I justified my absence with the fruits of my labor, failing to understand that he would have traded all the Legos in the world for 5 minutes of my undivided attention. As Leo entered his teenage years, the distance between us became a chasm. I was at the peak of my career. The company was growing, and my 60-hour weeks often stretched to 70 or 80. I was a machine, fueled by coffee and ambition, and Leo was becoming a young man I barely recognized. He was quiet around me, reserved. Our conversations were transactional, limited to, "How was school?" and "Did you do your homework?" I didn't know who his friends were. I didn't know what music he listened to. I didn't know his hopes, his fears, his dreams. I knew his grades because I saw his report cards. I knew his athletic schedule because it was on the family calendar. But I didn't know him. He played soccer, and he was good, really good. I made it to a few of his games, but even when I was there, I wasn't present. I'd be in the stands, my phone buzzing, my mind replaying a meeting or planning the next day's strategy. I was a spectator in his life, not a participant. The pivotal moment, the one that I believe severed the final thread of our connection, came during his junior year. His team was in the state semifinals. It was the biggest game of his life. He had been practicing for months, and the night before, he came to me, a rare vulnerability in his eyes, and said, "It would mean a lot if you were there tomorrow, Dad." The game was at 2 p.m. on a Friday. I had a board meeting, a meeting I could have rescheduled, a meeting that, in the grand scheme of things, was not life or death, but at the time, it felt like the most important thing in the world. I told him I would try to make it. "I'll try." That's what I said. And in that moment, I saw that dim light in his eyes go out completely. He just nodded and said, "Okay." He didn't argue. He didn't plead. He had already learned not to expect anything from me. He had already learned that he would always come second to my work. I didn't make it to the game. The meeting ran long. They lost in overtime. My wife told me he played his heart out. When I got home that night, his door was closed. I knocked, and he didn't answer. I opened it a crack and saw him lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. I said, "Hey, champ." Heard it was a tough game. He didn't move. He just said, "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. I had broken a promise. I had shown him in the clearest way possible what my priorities were, and he never asked me to come to another game again. From that day forward, a polite but impenetrable wall stood between us. He went off to college, and our relationship consisted of brief weekly phone calls and the occasional holiday visit. I would try to bridge the gap with money, buying him a car for graduation, sending him generous checks. I thought I was showing him I cared. But what I was really doing was trying to pay off the debt of my absence with a currency he had no interest in. He didn't want my money. He wanted his father. And that was the one thing I couldn't give him because I didn't know how. The full, crushing weight of my mistake didn't hit me until I was 60. I had just sold my company. I was retired. I had all the time and money in the world. I was, by every external measure, a success. My wife and I went to visit Leo and his wife, who had just had their first child, our grandson. I walked into their home and I saw Leo on the floor, playing with his infant son. He was making funny faces, talking in a silly voice, completely and utterly absorbed in the moment. He was present, he was there, he was everything I had never been. And as I stood in the doorway watching him, 40 years of self-deception collapsed in an instant. I saw my entire life with a horrifying clarity. I saw the thousands of moments I had missed, the Lego cities I never saw, the games I never watched, the conversations we never had. I saw the little boy who tugged on my sleeve, the teenager who just wanted his dad at the game. And I realized that in my relentless pursuit of giving him a better life, I had robbed him of the one thing that makes life worth living, a father's love, expressed not in dollars but in minutes, in shared laughter, in quiet presence, in just being there. I had to leave the room. I went into their backyard and I wept. I wept for the stranger my son had become. I wept for the father I had failed to be. I wept for the time that was gone, a vast, unrecoverable ocean of lost moments. I had won the race I had set for myself, only to discover I had been running in the wrong direction the entire time. The finish line was a wasteland of regret. In the 2 years since that day, I've tried to understand why I made the choices I made. It wasn't just about providing, it was about me. It was about my own identity. My self-worth was so deeply entangled with my professional success that I didn't know who I was without it. The 60-hour work weeks weren't just a means to an end. They were the end itself. They were my validation. They were my excuse for not having to engage in the messy, unpredictable, and often difficult work of emotional connection. It was easier to close a deal than to navigate a teenage son's feelings. It was easier to read a balance sheet than to read the disappointment in my child's eyes. Today, my relationship with Leo is polite. We talk, we see each other on holidays, but there is a formality to it, a careful distance that we both maintain. He has a family of his own now, and he is a wonderful father. He is present, he is engaged, he is everything I was not. And while I am immensely proud of him, that pride is tinged with a profound sadness. Because he learned how to be a good father, not from my example, but in spite of it. He learned what to do by experiencing everything I failed to do. So, I'm telling you this as a 62-year-old man who has everything and nothing. If you are a young parent in the thick of building your career, telling yourself that you are doing it all for your family, I am begging you to stop. Look at your life. Look at your schedule. Look at the choices you are making every single day. The work will always be there. The next deadline, the next promotion, the next deal, they are an endless, insatiable beast. But your child's childhood is a fleeting, precious, unrepeatable miracle. And you are missing it. Every time you choose your phone over their story, every time you choose an email over their game, every time you say "in a minute" to their plea for your attention, you are making a trade. And it is a trade you will lose. I promise you, you will lose. Don't do this. Don't build an empire of success on a foundation of regret. Don't wake up at my age and realize that the person you sacrificed everything for is a stranger. Go home. Be present. Put the phone away. The Lego city is more important than the conference call. The school play is more important than the business trip. The conversation in the car is more important than the email. This is it. This is the work, the real work, the only work that, in the end, will matter. I am trying now to build something with my son. It's awkward, it's slow. I am learning, at 62, how to be a father. I am learning to listen. I am learning to be present. I don't know if I can ever fully repair what I broke, but I have to try, for him and for me. But I'm starting from a deficit that is almost impossible to overcome. You don't have to. You can start today. You can choose differently. Please, for the love of your children and for the sake of your own soul, choose differently. Don't make my mistake. Let me elaborate on the insidious nature of this trade-off because it's a lie we tell ourselves with the best of intentions. The lie is that we are making a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. We believe that by working these punishing hours now, we are building a future where we will have more freedom, more resources, and therefore more quality time with our family. We envision a future where the mortgage is paid off, the college fund is full, and we can finally relax and enjoy the fruits of our labor alongside our loved ones. This is the great seductive myth of the modern provider. It's a mirage in the desert of overwork, always shimmering on the horizon, always receding as you approach it. What I fail to grasp is that relationships are not like bank accounts. You cannot make a series of withdrawals for 20 years and then hope to replenish the account with a few large deposits later in life. Relationships are living things. They require daily nurturing, consistent attention, and the fertile soil of shared experience. By being absent, I wasn't just missing moments. I was starving the relationship of the very nutrients it needed to grow. Each missed school play, each broken promise, each distracted conversation was a small act of neglect that, over time, caused the connection between my son and me to wither. I remember his 10th birthday. I had been on a business trip to Asia for 2 weeks. My flight was scheduled to land the morning of his birthday. I had promised him I would be there for his party, but the flight was delayed. A typhoon, they said. I spent his entire birthday in an airport hotel in Hong Kong. I called him, of course. I sang happy birthday over a crackling long-distance line. I told him I had a huge present for him. But I could hear the hollow echo in his, "It's okay, Dad." He was learning to be okay with my absence. He was adapting to a father who was a voice on the phone, a signature on a check, a ghost in the machine of our family life. When I finally got home 2 days later, the party was over, the cake was eaten, and the moment was gone. I gave him the expensive remote-controlled car I had bought. and he played with it for a day or two, but it was a poor substitute for a father. It was a monument to my failure, a plastic and metal apology for a wound that was emotional, not material. This pattern of substituting presence with presence became my default mode of parenting. It was easier. It was quantifiable. It assuaged my guilt. Bad day at work? Buy him the new video game? Missed his parent-teacher conference? Get him the expensive sneakers he wanted? It was a transactional approach to a relational problem. I was trying to patch a hole in his heart with things, but the hole wasn't thing-shaped, it was dad-shaped, and only I could fill it, but I was too busy, too important, too distracted. The irony is that my relentless work ethic was, in part, an attempt to heal the wounds of my own childhood. My father, as I've said, was a man defined by his labor, but his labor was one of necessity, not ambition. He never had the luxury of choosing his work. He simply did what he had to do to survive, and I saw the toll it took on him. I saw the dreams he had to defer, the passions he had to abandon. I swore to myself that my life would be different. I would be the master of my own destiny. I would build something that was mine. I would achieve a level of success that would make all the sacrifices worthwhile. I was so determined to not repeat my father's life of quiet desperation that I created a new, more insidious form of it for myself, a life of loud, celebrated, but ultimately hollow success. I was chasing a ghost, the ghost of my father's unlived life, and in that chase, I became a ghost in my own son's life. The generational trauma didn't disappear, it just changed its clothes. My father's absence was physical. He was at the factory. My absence was emotional. I was in my home office, but my mind was 1,000 miles away. The result for our children was the same, a father who was not there. As Leo grew, he adapted to my absence in ways that are only clear to me now in hindsight. He became fiercely independent. He learned not to rely on me for help with his homework, for advice on his problems, for anything really. He and his mother became a tight-knit unit, a team of two. I was the benefactor, the outside investor, but I was not on the team. They would have inside jokes I didn't understand, shared stories I hadn't been a part of. I would come to the dinner table and they would politely try to include me, but I was an outsider in my own family. I didn't speak their language, the language of daily life, of shared struggles and small victories. I spoke the language of profit margins and market share, and that language was useless at the dinner table. This independence, which I once praised as a sign of his maturity, I now see as a defense mechanism. He learned that he couldn't count on me, so he learned to count on himself. He built walls around his emotional world, not to keep me out maliciously, but simply because he had learned that the door was rarely answered when he knocked. It was a form of self-preservation, and while it has served him well in becoming a capable and self-reliant adult, it has left a permanent scar on our relationship. There is a part of him that I will never know, a part that he learned to protect and nurture on his own, because his father was too busy to help. My wife, Sarah, tried to warn me. She was the gentle, persistent voice of reason in the storm of my ambition. She would say things like, "Arthur, Leo has a science fair project due. Maybe you could help him with it tonight." Or, "Don't you think you should take a break? You've been working for 12 hours straight." I would dismiss her concerns with a wave of my hand. "I'm building a future for us, Sarah. This is important." I made her a co-conspirator in my neglect, framing my workaholism as a noble act of love for the family. How could she argue with that? I was doing it all for them, wasn't I? But she knew the truth. She saw the growing distance between her husband and her son. She tried to be the bridge, but a bridge cannot be built from only one side. The breaking point in our marriage, the moment that almost ended it, came a few years after Leo left for college. Sarah and I were empty nesters. The house was quiet. The buffer of the children was gone. And we were left to face each other, two strangers who had been living parallel lives under the same roof for 20 years. One evening, she sat me down and said, with a quiet finality that terrified me, "I don't know who you are anymore, Arthur, and I don't think you know who I am. We've lost each other." That was the first time the facade of my perfect life began to crack. I had told myself that my work was for my family, but my family was telling me that my work had destroyed it. We went to therapy. We fought. We cried. We slowly, painfully began to unpack the decades of neglect. It was during those therapy sessions that I first began to confront the truth about my relationship with Leo. My therapist asked me a simple question: what are Leo's passions? And I couldn't answer. I knew he liked soccer. I knew he was studying economics. But his passions? The things that lit him up from the inside? I had no idea. And the shame of that admission was a physical blow. I was 55 years old, and I did not know my own son. That was the beginning of my long, slow, and ongoing journey of trying to reconnect. It started with an apology, not a casual, "I'm sorry I worked so much," but a real, soul-bearing apology. I flew to see Leo. We sat in a coffee shop, and I told him everything. I told him I had failed him. I told him I had been a ghost. I told him I had prioritized my ambition over his heart. I told him I was deeply, profoundly sorry. I didn't make excuses. I didn't justify my actions. I just owned my failure as a father. He listened patiently. And when I was done, he said something that was both gracious and heartbreaking. He said, "I know you were doing what you thought was best, Dad. I get it. I'm not angry. I don't really know you." His forgiveness was, in a way, more painful than anger would have been. Anger would have implied that there was still a fiery connection to fight for. His calm, detached acceptance meant that he had already mourned the loss of our relationship years ago. He had made his peace with having a father who was not there, and now here I was, a stranger, asking to be led into a life that had learned to flourish without me. So this is my reality now at 62. I am a retired man with a vast fortune and an even vaster ocean of regret. I am a father who is learning to be a friend to his adult son. I am a man who is trying to build a bridge to an island that has long since become self-sufficient. We are making progress, slow, tentative progress. We talk more. I am learning about his passions. He is a talented woodworker. He builds beautiful furniture in his garage. Who knew? I am learning about his wife, about his dreams for his own family. I'm trying to be present now. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to show him, through my actions, that he is my priority. But the foundation is weak. The shared history is a patchwork of my absences. There are inside jokes I will never get, memories I will never be a part of. I am a latecomer to the story of his life, and I will always be. That is the price I paid. I traded his childhood for my career. And it is the worst deal I have ever made. Do not repeat my error. Do not believe the lie that you can make it up later. You cannot. Time only moves in one direction. The moments you miss are gone forever. Your children are not a project that can be put on hold. They are a story that is being written every single day. And you are either a character in that story or you are not. There is no in between. Be a character. Be present. Be a father. Be a mother. The work will wait. Your children will not. Don't learn this lesson at 62. Learn it now, before it's too late. There's one more thing I need to share with you. Something that crystallized for me recently as I watched my son with his own child. It's about the nature of legacy. For most of my life, I believed that my legacy would be the company I built, the wealth I accumulated, the professional reputation I established. I thought that when I was gone, people would remember Arthur the businessman, Arthur the entrepreneur, Arthur the success story. And perhaps some will. But the only legacy that truly matters, the only one that will echo beyond my death, is the legacy I leave in my son. And that legacy is one of absence, of broken promises, of a love that was felt but never adequately expressed. When I watch Leo with his son, my grandson, I see a man who has learned from my mistakes. He has a demanding job, but he has boundaries. He leaves work at 5. He is at every bath time. He reads bedtime stories. He is present. And I am grateful for that. I am grateful that the cycle is broken, but I am also haunted by the knowledge that he learned how to be a good father, not by following my example, but by rejecting it. My legacy to him was a blueprint of what not to do, and while I am glad he has found a better way, it is a bitter pill to swallow. I think about the grandfather I could have been if I had been a better father. I think about the deep, trusting relationship I could have with my son. The kind of relationship where he calls me not out of obligation, but because he genuinely wants to talk to me. I think about the inside jokes we could have, the shared history that is rich and full, not sparse and punctuated by my absences. I think about being the person he turns to in times of crisis, not because I am his father by blood, but because I have earned his trust through years of consistent presence. I think about all of this, and I realize that I am mourning a relationship that never was, a ghost of what could have been. This is the hidden cost of workaholism. It's not just the time you lose, it's the relationship you never build. It's the intimacy that never develops. It's the trust that is never established. It's the love that is felt but never adequately communicated. And by the time you realize what you've lost, the opportunity to build it is gone. You are left with the remnants, the scraps, the polite but distant relationship of two people who share a last name but not a deep connection. I want to be clear. I am not saying that work is unimportant. I am not saying that providing for your family is meaningless. Financial security matters. A roof over your head matters. Food on the table matters. But these are the baseline, the foundation. They are not the house itself. The house is built with time, with attention, with presence, with love, expressed not just in words, but in the daily, mundane, beautiful act of showing up, of being there, of choosing your child over your email, over your meeting, over your ambition. And here's the thing, you don't have to choose between being a provider and being a present parent. That is a false dichotomy, a lie that our culture perpetuates. You can work hard and still be present. You can have a successful career and still make your children a priority. It requires boundaries. It requires saying no to some opportunities. It requires a willingness to accept that you might not climb as high on the corporate ladder as you could if you sacrificed everything. But the trade-off is worth it. I promise you it is worth it. I look back at my life and I see so clearly now the moments where I could have made a different choice. The business trip I could have declined. The weekend I could have taken off. The evening I could have left the office early. Each of those moments was a fork in the road, and I consistently chose the path that led away from my son. I told myself I was doing it for him, but I was really doing it for me, for my ego, for my need to be important, to be successful, to be validated by the external world. I was using my family as an excuse to pursue my own ambitions. And that is a betrayal of the deepest kind. So as I stand here at 62, looking back at the wreckage of what could have been, I am asking you, pleading with you, to learn from my failure. Do not wait until you are my age to realize what truly matters. Do not wait until your children are grown and gone to understand that the most important work you will ever do is the work of being a parent. Do not trade the irreplaceable for the replaceable. Your career is replaceable. Your company is replaceable, your position is replaceable, but your child's childhood is not. The moments you miss are gone forever. The relationship you fail to build cannot be reconstructed from scratch in your retirement. Be present, put down the phone, close the laptop, leave the office, go to the game, watch the school play, build the Lego city, have the conversation, listen, really listen. Not with one ear while your mind is elsewhere, but with your full attention. Make your children feel like they are the most important thing in your world. Because they are. Or at least they should be. This is my message. This is my warning. This is my plea. I worked 60 hours a week, and I lost my relationship with my son. Don't do this. Don't make my mistake. The cost is too high, and the regret is a burden you will carry for the rest of your life. Choose differently. Choose better. Choose your children before it's too late.